Hello. Good afternoon to one and all present here. I am Mrs. Preeta, the coordinator for today. It gives me immense pleasure. I would like others to please mute your mic. Good afternoon to one and all present here. I am Mrs. Preeta Nair, your coordinator for today. It gives me immense pleasure to thank Baba Sir and NCDC for giving us this opportunity by conducting webinars for the past 1 year. NCDC and Baba Sir has been doing a lot for the women and children in general. And I would also like to extend a warm welcome to Shakila ma'am, Jyoti ma'am, PM Anil sir, and my wonderful butterflies from the 49th batch. Thank you so much for coming. I would like to hand over the mic to the anchors, Soni ma'am and Veena ma'am.
Thank you, Preeta ma'am. Our world is full of beauty. It's just that most people can't see it. Take a moment to live your life and take in all the colors of our world. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to each and all of you present here. Myself, Soni Mohan, would like to extend my cordial welcome to our faculty, Mrs. Shakila ma'am, Jyoti ma'am, Rija ma'am, Sabita ma'am, and our today's guest speaker, DTM Mr. Anil Kumar sir, and my dear friends to witness the webinar of 49 batch of NCDC. My sincere gratitude to Mr. Baba Alexander sir for conducting such useful educational webinars.
I'm Veena. It's indeed my privilege to be a co-anchor for today's webinar. Our theme for today, Colors of Life, represent the different emotions of each one of us and what it has to offer. As it rightly said, life is beautiful. Dreaming is another way of seeing the beautiful colors of life. Live your dreams.
We would like to take you into a sneak preview of what NCDC is all about.
National Child Development Council is a New Delhi-based, self-governing and ISO 9001-2015 certified national organization working for the education and welfare of women and children in India since 2004. NCDC also has a participant status in United Nations Global Compact, New York, USA. The main aim and objectives of NCDC are protecting the rights of children and working for the welfare of women and children. Also, developing scientific and psychologically molded training methods and improving the quality of child education. They have been conducting premarital and postmarital counseling programs, abolishing child labor and child begging, and giving timely valuable suggestions and advice to government and other organizations, and from time to time conducting different training programs for parents, teachers, and children. Yes, we are at NCDC to make our dreams come true.
A day without prayer is a day without blessing, and a life without prayer is a life without power. I would like to invite my friend Ansu ma'am for the daily prayer.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, hold your hands and close your eyes. Everyone, hold your hands and close your eyes. ഹൃദയരാഗതന്ത്രിനീട്ടി സ്നേഹഗീതമേകിയും കർമ്മഭൂമി തളിരിടുന്ന വർണ്ണമേകിയും നമ്മിൽ ആദിനാമം ഇന്നു വാഴ്ത്തിടാം ഞങ്ങൾ പാടുമീ സ്വരങ്ങൾ കീർത്തനങ്ങളാകണം
Wasn't that a soulful prayer song? Thank you, Ansu ma'am.
It's my duty and my privilege to invite our mentor and faculty, Mrs. Shakila Abdul Wahab ma'am, to deliver her welcome address.
Thank you, Soni ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Before that, I would like to give a small request. Everyone, please mute your audio, please. Honorable Chief Guest Speaker, DTM Anil Nair sir, and Master Trainer Baba Alexander sir, Senior Faculty and Focus Fairies Coordinator, Jyoti ma'am, and Sabida ma'am, and all my dear 49th batch butterflies and all the participants present here. Good afternoon. It's my privilege to give the welcome speech to one and all present here. First of all, I would like to welcome today's guest speaker, DTM Anil Nair sir. Welcome, sir. And next, I would like to welcome our dear Baba sir, Master Trainer and backbone of NCDC. Without you, nothing is possible, sir, because you have given this much opportunity from last year onwards. We are conducting all these webinars for public also, not only for NCDC faculties or students, for all the public. I wish to welcome all, one and all present here. I know so many outsiders also present here and so many viewers are here for FB Live. We wish, on behalf of Focus Fairy Circle, we wish a very warm welcome to one and all present here. Okay, dears, please continue. Thank you all.
Thank you, Shakila ma'am, for those wonderful words.
Our little butterflies from the 49th batch would be presenting before you a welcome song. Are you all ready, dears?
Yes, they are ready.
We are ready.
Is there some music going on? Because I'm not hearing anything.
Preeta ma'am, music is not audible.
Preeta ma'am, nothing audible.
You're on mute. You have to unmute. You are on mute.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just switching it on.
Music varane lata.
Ma'am, what happened, ma'am?
Ma'am, I'm just checking.
The technical issue, Frida ma'am.
Thank you, my dear friends, for conveying your true emotions. We loved it.
There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. DTM Anil sir has been a Toastmaster since 2017. He has held many positions in his club YMCA Chennai and has been a chief judge for many Toastmaster events. Anil sir has been working in the IT field for more than 25 years. He is an avid reader and is also interested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Anil sir is currently working in Western Union, Pune as Agile Manager. It's my honor to invite Mr. Anil Nair sir for the education session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for that warm welcome. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone, to all the nice people who are gathered here. I'm sure all of you are great teachers, and what I'm going to tell you is mostly what you already know. But as they say, common sense is most uncommon. So what you already know, you need to also reiterate that, reinforce that again and again, so that it brings into focus and that you know how to apply it. And that's the reason what you might see or find that most of it you have been doing or you will be doing, but having it together in one place does help. All right, so can I hear a cheer from all of you? I couldn't get too many people to vote on the Mentimeter. Though those who said, I think I saw excited, super, wonderful, ready to hear what you're able to say, something like that. So that was all good. Can I get a round of cheer from everyone? Because we want to start in an energetic manner, right? Yeah. Awesome. That's really good.
Awesome,
That's really
sir.
good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen, and if you need to give me permission for that, please do so right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you let me know if you're able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And are you able to see it in presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And before I go into it, can I please know how much time do I have to go over the presentation?
1 hour,
My
sir.
1 hour. And after 1 hour, from what I understand, what my wife told me
Yes.
is that we have
Yes.
another session for Q&A.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So let's start. Now, if you're able to see it. If someone wants to draw, not a problem. You're most welcome to do whatever you want. So today's topic that we are going over is an imaginative approach to teaching, right? And the person who is drawing that is probably very creative and imaginative. So that's really nice. And it's 8. I don't know what 8 stands for. So let's proceed. Okay, I think I'll have to rub it, otherwise it would appear on every slide, right?
Who is doing that one?
Yeah, I've rubbed it. So what's the biggest challenge for a teacher? Now, as a teacher, of course, you face many challenges. But can one or two of you just mention what, in your opinion, is the biggest challenge?
To control anger, sir.
To control anger. Okay. That's looking at it inward. What is it that I have or I lack and what I can improve on? Okay. That's a valid answer. Please go ahead.
So
Anyone else?
facing children with different background.
Facing children from different background. Yes, that is a good answer. That's looking outwards towards what the children are and how do we respond to them or how we can adjust to what they need. That's good. And one more person, if you want to try.
Stress management.
Trust management. Okay, trust management is something really wonderful, and that holds true for any kind of group, right? Not just children, not just teachers, but everyone in society and how we interact with each other. Without trust, there is nothing that can happen or take place. Okay, great. So, yes, go ahead.
To meet the needs of children. No?
To meet the needs of children. Wonderful. And that's also a great answer. But of course, there are different ways you can meet the need, right? So basically, if you say, yes.
Teachers should be more creative.
Absolutely. That's true. That's exactly, and that's the topic that we are going into. So let's proceed. Okay, so what I'm saying, because it's what's with the relevance to the topic and what I think is the big challenge for any teacher is basically students' attention, right? How do we capture students' attention? Now, if you are saying somebody is a teacher, that means the other side, there is a student. There is somebody who's telling something, there is somebody who's trying to assimilate that, and that's the student. But as you know, with each generation, the attention span of the children is reducing. The attention span that our parents had is not the kind of attention span that we had. The attention span that our children are having is very, very less. And I'm sure the attention span of their children, that is our grandchildren, would be just few minutes, right? We won't be able to hold their attention for more than few minutes if it is not interesting enough for them. Okay, so we also need to convey our ideas effectively. Why else are we teaching, right? If we teach something, we want the other person to understand what we are trying to say, to assimilate as much of it as possible. Even if it's not 100%, tending towards the high 80s and high 90%, right? And obviously, whenever we are speaking, we want to create a lasting impression. So if you say from a bigger bucket size, if you say the whole thing, this is what is the biggest challenge. Now you will have different mini challenges. 3 of them have already been mentioned by other people in the group. So we do have multiple other challenges, but this is the core challenge that every one of the teachers have. If they are teaching, or can I say, instead of teachers, educators, because you may educate, you may not be an official teacher, you may not be a formal teacher, and you may try to educate people on other aspects, right? So I will use the term educator more than I'll use teachers. As a teacher,
उसको दो और वो पूजा वाला ग्लास भी दो उसको.
So I would
Excuse
request,
me?
please
Please mute your mic.
Yeah. And I'll request everyone to mute unless you want to ask something or say something to the audience, right? Not to within your household. Now, how as a teacher do we make it, right? How do we do and address this challenge? Basically, what we want to do is make the classroom experience much more lovable, right? So the students should love to come to your class. That's what we have to, that is the aim, right? How we do it, we have different tools and techniques, and you may invent your own tools and techniques. But finally, what we want to achieve, the outcome, is to make the classroom experience much more lovable for the students. And for that, what do we need to do? We as teachers or educators, we have to bring the lessons to life. And to bring the lessons to life, we have to engage the imagination of the students. All right, so I hope all of you are with me on this, and I'm not going too fast. Okay, so let's dive into what are some basic tools for imaginative teaching, right? So I've selected a few which I thought were important. This may not be the whole comprehensive list, but it would cover most of the areas that we as teachers and educators would need. So the first one is story, right? Why story? What is so fascinating about a story? Does anyone want to take a guess? I mean, answer that in their own words.
So, if we tell them the story, they start visualizing in their mind. They see the stories in their mind.
Super. I mean, that's really a wonderful answer, right?
Thank
That
you.
was, yeah, that's a great answer. So, if you think about it, right, most of us react to our environments on the basis of what is happening in our mind, right? If there is a situation that is happening and our mind says that is bad, we react in a bad sense. If mind says it is good, we react well. And it depends on our state of mind as well. Now, stories lead to imagination. So whatever you're telling in a story makes the students imagine, and they kind of feel it is real, and they experience that in their minds. Since they experience that in their mind, it gets stored in their main storage, right? If you know, hippocampus is a center of learning where the storage happens, and that's the long-term storage. So if you tell it in an entertaining fashion, even if you do not remember the details, the basic of the story and what it means at an overall, what's the overall picture remains in our mind. So if you talk about Ramayana and Mahabharata, why are they told in a story format? Because that's why we'll remember them across generations. Okay, so let's just go into it. Now, if you just go back before, say, even 200, 300 years back, most of our teaching was done in an oral way, right? And most of our teaching was in the form of stories. Because the stories establish the imaginative and emotional meaning. They give that. Right? So, and they evoke wonder. And it touches the students more than what you can just open a book and read it. Because, I mean, at least for me, when I was learning, my teachers, most of my teachers were just bookish teachers. They used to open the book, read the lessons, and then ask questions whether you understand or not. Right? If you tell that way, it is obviously dry and boring. And if you can get away with it, what we will do is we'll sleep in the class, or we'll just do something else, make some pictures on notebooks. I'm sure many of you would have also done it. While a particular boring class is in progress, we might be making something in our notebooks and it's not actually writing notes. Okay, so we as teachers should bring out the emotional meaning in a way that will engage the imagination. Let's go to the second one, metaphors. Does anybody here know what a metaphor is? I'm sure all of you know, but can you give an example? All right, so you've heard of metaphors and similes, right? So it's again a word which tells you, like, say, suppose you want to say something is fast. You'll say as fast as a cheetah. Why would anyone say that when you're telling it or when you want to describe it? It's because you're comparing it to a cheetah. Cheetah is supposed to be fast And when you say as fast as cheetah, it brings an image in our mind, and it gives the emotion of being fast, right? Or you may say as tall as a giraffe. And you know, if I see something, I mean, when I was young, and if you saw somebody who's tall, we used to say, "Oh, to Amitabh Bachchan." I mean, I'm sorry, I'm using Hindi. It means that he's like Amitabh Bachchan, because Amitabh Bachchan was like a tall actor. So Amitabh Bachchan personified the meaning of tall. And if you say that he's like Amitabh Bachchan, immediately other people used to understand that this person is very tall. Okay, so the using of metaphors does help make it more creative. Let me go. Okay. Now, if you see and if you have read Shakespeare, yes, go ahead.
Anil sir, our participant has mentioned it is raining cats and dogs.
Oh yes, what a wonderful metaphor. So can another participant say, what does this mean? It's raining cat and dogs. What does that mean? So Ashwanita, very good. Okay, so yeah, those of us who are in Chennai, we probably have felt that. Raining cats and dogs means it's the downpour is very heavy. So we also say like it's raining like buckets, right? So that way. So what it means is a very, very heavy rain. All right. So again, I have a couple of examples here. You say the school is a zoo. So obviously it doesn't mean the school is actually a zoo. It just means that there are various kind of animals doing all kind of antics, and you're just telling that metaphor so that people understand it. Or say another one is, my dog is as smelly as dirty socks. Now, those of us who have worn socks or who have gone out in the rain with socks, come back and keep it in our place. You know how a pair of dirty socks can really cause that bad smell in an entire room, right? So this is another way of saying that my dog was smelly. Let's go to the next one that we have. Binary opposites. What does binary opposites mean? You understand what is binary? The word itself says two parts, right? Whenever there is anything called bi, it's always two parts. So basically it's like two words which are opposite of each other. That is what I meant here by binary opposites. If you see most of our children's stories, they would have like good and evil, or heroes, heroines, hero and villains, right? There would be something which is humor and also which is tragedy, right? Comedy, tragedy. So whenever you have these contrasts and opposites, people are more interested in such stories or more interested in such thoughts and speeches. So whenever you present something, whenever you're giving a lesson, if it has the opposites clearly defined, the black and white, it gives the contrast, and the students understand it much better. So for example, some things that you can consider which are binary opposites is something like hot and cold, bad and good, right? So when you want to talk about, say you want to say something is bad, right? If you just mention what is bad, what is it bad against, right? So you have to know the opposite. Right? For example, you do say, to understand what is light, first you should know what is dark, because without dark there cannot be any light. Because there is dark, there is light. Otherwise the word light doesn't have any meaning. Let's go to the next two, which is rhyme, rhythm and pattern. What do we mean by rhyme, rhythm and pattern?
Which has rhyming words.
Right. Obviously.
In a sentence.
Yes, absolutely true. Now, if you think about our already, yes, go ahead, please. I think that you're talking to your child, but can you please be on mute?
Please mute your phone, please.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead. Why we like rhyme and all this? Because see, basically what happens is we are human beings. We have five senses. and whatever appeals to our senses appeals to us, right? And sound is one of our senses. And sound also, if we hear a grating sound which is harsh, we don't like it. We want something which is rhythmic or which has a pattern, right? So for example, there's a song called Manike Magere, right? It's a Sri Lankan song. Most of us will not understand Sri Lankan, but it's become a big hit across the world and especially in India. Why? Because it has a rhyme, rhythm, and there's a pattern to that. That word Manike Magere comes regularly. If you observe most songs, those key lines are always repeated. Why do we do it? Because it makes it more interesting. It makes it more hummable. It makes it more rememberable. It makes it more memorable for us. All right. And if you see our oral traditions, all the Vedas, first they were recited in an oral way in Sanskrit slokas. And if you know some Sanskrit slokas, you can see how beautifully they are crafted as a rhythm, right? Because you need to remember it. So they have done it in such a great way. I mean, our ancestors were really wonderful. They understood how language and how meaning and how ideas can be transmitted across multiple generations. And that is why something that is written 5,000 years or who knows, 10,000 years back is still with us, and many of the people still remember it. Okay, suppose it was just, they had just written it down or mentioned it in a very uninteresting manner. We don't remember it. I mean, you can also know, like you have, I mean, all of you are now adults here, maybe there are some kids. But if you remember your school days and what you were taught, I mean, you have done till 12th standard, right? So even if you disregard the preschool, there is 12 years of schooling, plus 3 to 4 years of graduation, and some of you have done graduation and the two years for that. Among all those years, how much of it do you retain? Whatever you retain, it would be because either it has some rhymes or it has a story. I mean, it has one of these tools, right? Then only you will retain it. Why? Because then only it will be stored in your long-term memory, and then only you will find it interesting. You're getting that. Okay, so human mind always loves the patterns and rhythms. So, and of course, the greatest storytellers of our times or the greatest writers of our time use these tools to generate our interest, and that is why they'll be able to sell or they'll be able to. Okay, and there are a few examples here. I mean, the nursery rhymes are the best examples of this. Whether you remember other things or not, I'm sure you remember Humpty Dumpty or Old MacDonald Had a Farm, Baba Black Sheep. These are some things we have learned when we were in preschool, but most of us still remember it word to word. Why is that? Why do not we remember the other things? It's because these have been imprinted in our minds and they have a certain rhythm. They are interesting. Some of them may be very silly, but still because they are interesting and they are using these imaginative tools, we remember them. Let's move ahead. Next one is jokes and humor. Why jokes and humor? Anybody wants to take a guess or try? Again, whatever you incorporate as jokes and humor becomes more interesting to the audience, right? So the audience may not remember word to word, but if it's a good joke, they'll definitely remember the joke. And if you have brought out humor in your speeches or in your teachings, they will remember that good feeling, and some of it will, some of the lessons, key lessons also, we'll be able to remember easily. So basically, humor is a high useful tool because finally a classroom, I mean, how much ever you make it creative, artistic, visual, it's finally most of it is an oral environment. Right? And jokes being the focus of our language, it provides some fun and it has a great educational value. So whenever you do something, try to incorporate some humor in it. When you incorporate humor in it, not only will you feel nice when you're telling it out, because the audience is glued to your words, right? They're completely engaged. The audience also will feel nice and they'll remember more. The next tool that we have here is mental imagery. So mental imagery, I think one of you had already mentioned it when we were talking about stories. They are related, right? When you are telling a story also, if you're using the mental imagery, making the people imagine the environment or the situation, the stage that you're building, then they are able to remember it much more. So words actually, they create mental images, right? I mean, maybe accurate, may not be accurate, but you do evoke it, right? And there are some good people who can talk about smell and people imagining they are smelling something, right? Or the more easier part is you talk about some delicious food and our mouth starts watering. Why? The food is not in front of us. It does that because in our mind, we are imagining that food. Because we are imagining that food, our brain thinks that there is food and our mouth starts salivating. Okay, so again, we are very sensory beings and our senses can be easily fooled. And what we are trying to do here is to engage those senses in a positive way to ensure that we have a long-term learning situation in our speeches and in our classes. All right. And play and games. Of course, all of us love to play and play a game, right? So play and game is another tool which should be in every teacher's and educator's list. This is something we should adopt as much as possible. Okay, so most educators, they know that play engages the children. It also liberates their minds. Now, when we have fantasy games, we are creating some completely imaginary worlds, right? So it could be as simple as, okay, you want to talk about what a doctor does, what a nurse does, what a teacher does, make it a play, right? So have a play about doctors and patients. So you do a get up about doctors, get up of patients, and patient is having some problem, doctor is investigating the problem. They will remember that situation more better than you just mention them in terms of words, right? And of course, you want to learn about something. The best way is to have a crosswords. And many of you may have used flashcards as well. Flashcards is another good way of remembering things. And crossword is a wonderful way because you've got to engage your brain to solve that. So if you want to know about fruits, why not make a crossword of that and ask the people to write down the words, right? For example, this is an example of a crossword. So if you say S and B, what is that line? What fruit is that? Anybody?
Strawberry.
Strawberry, right? Okay, let's take another example. How about PL and the two words after?
Plum.
Plum. Okay. And there's another example where we just have O and we have 5 words after it. Yes, very good.
Orange.
Right? Yeah. So when you do it like that, people will first of all feel more engaged and they will be more involved and they'll remember it much better, right? So if you can convert any one of your teachings, lessons into crosswords or any other puzzles or games, that creates better learning outcomes. Okay, let's go. I think this is the last in my list that I've noted down. Collections or hobbies, right? People are very interested in the hobbies and even children have hobbies, right? And by collections, what I mean is groupings. Now, if you want to learn about something, it's better and easier when we ask people to search for a collective group of it, right? So if you want to say, teach people about, let's say birds, instead of talking about a particular bird or this bird, you can say, okay, get me a group of birds, but also research and try to find out where do they live, which continent or countries they are in, what do they eat, right? When you do it that way, it is again, the students have to research, find out and bring back to you. And when they do that, they understand it more better than you just telling them that, okay, this is crow is found in cities and they come and eat leftover foods. If you tell it that way, that's not very interesting. But if they go and find out themselves, you don't spoon feed them, but make them do the activity, they will remember it much more. Okay, so this is a tool that's not, at least I have not observed it being used much, but this is something that can be used and it can be used in a very positive sense. And again, it can help in making things imaginative. Right? So some few examples are given, like exotic birds, endangered birds. So if you talk about, okay, let's find out what all birds are endangered and why are they? Who is responsible for that? and what is it that we can do to ensure that those endangered birds also, they become less endangered, right? So there are different ways to approach and different things that you can do once you understand this tool. Okay, now that we have come, we have gone over the 8 basic tools that I have mentioned. Let's go over some techniques and methods, right? How do we apply those tools? The tools are fine, but how do we apply? So some of the techniques and methods have mentioned. The first application or tool method that we can think of is what we can consider under creative teaching. So what is creative teaching? So creative teaching is bringing all your creativity into place. So again, including the games or some visual exercises, right? And first we need to understand our students also, right? Not every student behaves in the same way. Not every student responds in the same way. There are people who are more visual. They understand things when you show them in a visual way. There are other students who are oral, that is they understand when there are sounds, rhythms, music, speeches, those kind of things. There are other students who are tactile, that is they'll understand things only that they can touch and feel, right? And there are other students who may be olfactory, right? That means basically they only understand if they are smelling something, right? And few people are foodies, they'll understand things only if it is related to the food. So basically you got, in creative teaching, you got to engage the senses of your students. And before that, you need to understand how each one responds to different stimuli. Okay, and one thing you can bring it out is you can't do it all by yourself, right? You need to ask the right questions. You need to get it from the students themselves. Ask them about, encourage them to tell you what they are, how they can respond better or how they can understand things better. Okay, let's move ahead. Next is audio and video tools. Audio and video tools specifically in today's environment becomes very critical and very important. One thing is that, again, most people are visual or oral. That is, they understand when they see things or they hear things. And most people, a combination of both helps the best. So a combination of audio things and visual things, that is video, will help the children or others, if you're speaking to a mature audience, to understand things better and to retain things better. Okay, and it's not necessary that you have to do it, right? When you are teaching, give them homework or give them something to explore, ask them to find out. And when they do that, ask them to present it. That way, it again engages them better. It makes them focus on the things. Because after all, if we are a passive audience and we are just receiving things that somebody is saying, there's not much of it that we might retain, even if it is entertaining. Some of us may get diverted into other activities, especially if we are, doing in a remote manner. But if you ask the people to present, ask the people to do something and bring, then it focuses their attention and they need to do it, right? So that helps in this. And audio and visual tools are some things that we can use in remote as well. And today there are a lot of these smart apps which are available and easily searchable in Google. You can get a lot of stuff which is free. You don't have to pay for it. So there are if it was like 10, 15 years back, these all things would have been difficult. But in today's environment, all the educators have a lot of information available at their tips. Sitting at home, they can do it. Right? You don't need to go to a library. You don't need to search for a book or ask your friends or others people. You can research it yourself. The whole world is at your fingertips as long as you know how to search and find things. Real world learning. Real world learning means practicals, right? So if you want to teach someone about a plant, would it not be better to take them out to a farm or to some garden and show them how you plant, right? How do you do? What do you do? If a seed has to become a plant, what should happen? What you need to, how do you need to nurture it? What apart from water, sun, what other minerals are required? Not every plant requires the same kind of thing, right? Some plants need nitrogen, some plants need, but potassium, some plants need all of those and plus others. They may need magnesium and all that. So if you want the kids to know more about plants, take them to the garden and show them how things happen. And it's not just one-time activity, right? So during the year, if you're a teacher of a class, during the year, how does a seed grow into a plant and how big does it grow, right? And what are challenges it has? If you do not treat it well, if you do not give it the nutrition that it needs on a regular basis, the plants will die. All that will be, children will remember it more better when they see things happen, and they'll be more excited about it also. Right? So make as much as possible, try to give real world learning. And by making them do it themselves. Okay, so that's what is more imaginative, more creative, and more retentive for these students. Okay, and then another thing is brainstorm. What do you mean by brainstorm? Anyone here has used brainstorming as a tool or a method?
So coming out with different ideas.
Wonderful, Revati. That's really nice, coming out with different ideas. But how? What's the difference between a brainstorming and just asking people to come out with different ideas? Okay, let's put it. Brainstorming, what you do is it's a more focused and process about generating ideas. Now we ask in general brainstorming, of course you can have different flavors, but generally how it is used is, we can say we have a group of 10 people and we want to generate ideas from them. We'll ask each of the 10 people to write down the ideas, whatever it is, even if they think it is silly, it cannot be implemented, you cannot do anything about it, or it is science fiction, right? Whatever comes to their mind on a particular topic that you are going to brainstorm on, let them just write it down, whether it's 5 words, 5 sentences, whatever. So once they have done it, so give them that 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever is required for that. Then bring the whole group together, ask them to share each of their ideas, and then the whole group decides which of these ideas can be implemented or which of these ideas are relevant, right? So if say for a very easy example, each one of them had 10 ideas. Overall, there are 100 ideas brought to the table. A discussion happens on those 100 ideas. You identify the top 10 ideas which are workable and which are usable and which you want to explore further. So those 10 ideas are then set aside, and that is where the focus is. Because obviously, if you start exploring all the 100 ideas, probably it'll take a year to get everything done. Right? So that's how the brainstorming is used, to generate ideas and also to boil down to those top ideas which you want to implement or which you want to take forward. All right, I hope you got that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then classes outside the classroom. Okay, let's go back again into history, right? In most of history, where were the classes?
Outside.
Outside, right? We used to learn in Gurukuls, right? So it's only after the British came, so that's around 1700s, and mostly they started around 1800s or mid 1800s. The classroom environment was created. What is the classroom environment and why it was created? What happens in a classroom? A classroom where maybe today there are a little bit more difference, more creativity, but if you say from 1850 to say year 2000 or 2010 even, what used to happen mostly in a classroom?
There's greenery all around.
In a classroom?
Oh, in the classroom.
In the class, you're saying there was greenery.
It's a structured one, no? Classroom, structured.
No, I'm talking from the year 1850 to say the year 2000. Okay, so obviously there was no greenery, right? It was a dry and dull classroom.
No, I thought it was outside.
No. We are coming to that part. That outside is where we want to go. But
Yes.
it was a very dull environment, and basically I was going off topic. But what I meant was the Britishers came, they created that model of a classroom, which was more like a factory. So you are producing outputs more like a factory because you want to produce people of the same, literally the same knowledge, trying to mold them in the same way, trying to give them the same test, trying to teach them the same things without understanding each person and each child is individual and unique, and they need different experiences. They learn at a different pace. Some people are slow, some people are quick, some people are good in math, some people are good in science, some people are good in history. But we wanted to mold them like a product, a finished product who come out after 15 years of schooling or so, and everyone is tested in the similar way. And you are making the test. I mean, maybe some of you have seen that, right? Example of a fish, elephant, snake, and your human being, you can say, or monkey, right? Now, what is the one standardized test that you can give to all these four, right? Which can measure their intelligence or their abilities? Can you ask fish to climb a tree?
No.
Can you ask monkey to be underwater for days?
No.
Okay.
No.
So all the children and all the students are unique. And in the system that the British implemented and we followed religiously for the last 200 years, nearly 150 to 200 years, it is that expectation that has kept the brain power of our people down. Because all the British were interested is in creating clerks and people who will be able to administer their empire.
For that.
And that is what has happened to us, right? They have dulled us down to such an extent that most of the people and parents are just interested in how much marks that their children get, not about what they are actually learning and how will they implement that in their future lives. So that's the tragedy that happened. And of course, it is becoming better nowadays because more people are understanding. There is more creativity. There are more opportunities being explored. Parents are becoming more liberal with their children and are giving them that ability to do whatever they want or to go in the direction they want. Slowly it is changing, and once it changes, obviously India will reach its former stage of golden birth, Soni ki Chidiya. So obviously we were 25% of the global GDP at the time the British came, and by the time they left we were down to 2%. So and now we are at maybe 4%. So we still have a long way to go. It may take 50 years, 100 years, but we'll be back at over 20% of the GDP of the world. It's going to happen because things are becoming better, right? And the brain power of Indians is now again being released because of all the creativity that is coming in, all the connectivity that we are having, the access to internet, which will be available to every child, even a poor child in any village. Because without this connectivity, those guys were like have to be laborers. But now, if they can get that free education from across the world, I'm sure there'll be a lot of inventors and scientists coming up from our villages and small towns. And they're already coming, but it will become a flood of them. And again, our intellectual brain power will reach or go towards the level we were there in our historical ages. Anyway, so coming back to this topic, classes outside the classroom. A classroom environment is very confined. And whenever anything is confined, anything is suppressed and repressed, we don't have the freedom and we cannot think creatively, freely, and independently. When you take people out of the classroom, even if it is once a week, first of all, it generates more interest. Second of all, being in the open environment gives us more energy because we are breathing better air and we are looking at the greenery. Again, that pleases our eyes, increases our focus, and teaching in an outside environment always is more creative. And of course, you might have heard about Shanti Niketan, right? Which Rabindranath Tagore had put up 100 years ago. Yeah, it still functions in an open environment. And those are really good. And there are certain schools today also who had started 10, 15, 20 years back who do conduct many classes outside. And I'm not talking about the government schools who have to conduct it because their school premises is more dangerous than outside environment. But yeah, maybe that was an advantage in the sense that they were forced to go outside. Yes, but purposefully there are many schools who are conducting it that way. All right, let's move ahead. An imaginative role play. I think we discussed this once before, but whatever you do as a role play, you retain it much better. So wherever possible, just try to see if we can do a role play. If you want to make a concept crystal clear in the heads of your students, try to see if we can do some role play games. Right? And obviously, one very good example is doctor patient, because that is something you can make it very clear. What does a doctor do? What are the equipments a doctor has? What a patient is, and what does a patient feel? So patient may have to get medicines, receive injections. If you do through the form of a role play, they'll understand it much more. Right? And one good thing about role play is it's good for every age group. Right? And we're not talking about early childhood or even the teenagers. It's even for adults. Role play is really good. I think I have seen that you guys do a lot of role play. At least I've seen my wife dressing up as a fisherman, as a Swiggy person or Zomato or whatever. And so those are really interesting, and she also gets excited to do that. And maybe you're able to retain those lessons better. So many of these tools NCDC is already using. So it does look like a great creative organization. So it's really nice that you use this. Okay, puzzles and games. So puzzles and games are like, it could be crosswords. You can start playing any kind of a board game. So anything you play as a board game, you retain more. For example, if you want to know more about business, right, there's nothing better than playing a game of Monopoly. Because when you play the game of Monopoly, you understand certain concepts of money and how money is used to buy assets, and assets give you some returns in terms of rent. So those concepts are very easily understood when you play a game of Monopoly. The only thing is you have to incorporate Monopoly and combine it with education. So not play it just as a separate game, but also when you're playing it and after the play or before the play, make sure that the concept is understood. Right? You have play money. So what does that money stand for? What are the units of that? And what can you buy? So when you have 100 rupees and you want to buy two things, and one is costing 70, another one is costing 50, right? This is easy to explain the concept. You have only 100 rupees. You cannot buy both of them. You have to buy only one. What is it that you really need? Right? So that concept the children will get it very easily when they know, right? If you say, otherwise, if they come and ask you, I need these two things, you say, no, I don't have the money. This is very expensive. I will not give it to you. They really feel that parents are torturing them, or parents are not loving them or something like that, right? But when they understand the concept of limited things, then they're able to appreciate it better. Okay, so you can explain and you can make people understand various concepts by playing the games. Okay, and then wherever possible, we should introduce any lesson like a story, because we do remember stories, right? Now, if you watch a movie, which movies do you remember? The movies that have interesting stories, right? Of course, interesting stories told in a very interesting manner, and the actors should be good. All those are part of it. But generally, if the story is not good, you will not remember the movie as such. Okay, so learnings become more interesting when you introduce in the form of a story, right? And it doesn't mean that just normal things, right? Even mathematics lessons can be told in the form of a story. Okay, so for example, if you want to talk about pi is 3.1415 and so on and on, right? You can explain the background of pi, how pi is useful in geometric sense, right? So most of the flowers, most of the patterns that you're finding in nature, they have something called the golden ratio, and golden ratio is basically pi. Right, and even other things. If I mean, there are, of course, we did have Shakuntala Devi. So if you go and see how she used to explain mathematics. That was very interesting. Right? If you make it interesting, then people retain it much better. I think this is the final one, storyboards. What's the difference between a storyboard and a story and a storyboard teaching, right? And basically a storyboard is you have a board and you make it highly visual so that things go from one step to another. Right? You can also think it in the form of like all those comic strips and cartoon strips. Right? They have 3 to 5 visual images and the story happens in them. So if you can create something like that on your board, then it becomes more engaging. So it's a good form of communication. You're basically telling a story in the form of pictures here. And like Rudyard Kipling, the great poet, rightly said, if history were taught in the form of stories, we would never forget it. Right? Anything that is a story, we find it that it retains in our memory for a longer duration than whatever is just taught in a theoretical sense. Okay, so I've come to the end of, we had first gone over some basic tools and then we said, let's go and see what methods we can incorporate those tools in. And now I would go and give a few examples. These examples are basically some exercises or things that you can do in your classrooms to make it more interesting and make things more engaging.
Others, please mute your mic.
Let's resume again. And like they say, right, I remember in Doordarshan every time whenever we used to have these interruptions, they say Rukavat ke liye khed hai. Okay, so one thing what you can do is play something like what would happen if, right? So if you want to make people imagine things more, then this is one of the things you can try out. Do you need any preparation for this? No. And how do you need to organize the people? You can be on an individual basis. It can be 2 persons together, or it could be multiple persons together. So you can organize the class in any way, right? And you don't need any pre-preparation. So what is the procedure? You tell the students to write a composition by using one of the following ideas. And these 3 ideas are just simple, what I have given, but you can do anything with it, right? And you can teach anything with it, any subject in this manner. So for example, if the idea is, if a crocodile came into the class to study English, right? Now, that's a very interesting thing. Now, people cannot answer that very quickly, right? They really have to imagine the situation, use all their creativity and imaginative skills, and then come up with the answer.
Mute karna.
हाँ अशोक जी, mute करना है. Okay. Right. So another example that I have here is, if in one day we found the streets of a city covered with grass and flowers. Right. So these are not some things very simple, and you definitely cannot Google it and get the answer. You have to use your imagination, right? And we should allow the class to go in any direction and the people to write anything that comes into their head. That is where the other parts of the brains will get engaged, and you will be able to become more holistic person, right? If you're using these techniques and the people who adopt these techniques. Or how about if I invited an extraterrestrial to have lunch at home? Right? So we'll tell the students to invent all kind of new ideas, and whatever they like, they can do it. Right? Or if they don't want this, they can have another topic and they can do it. And by the way, I hope all of you understand what's an extraterrestrial. Okay, I'm assuming that as yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks so much. And then what happened? So another interesting thing you can try it was something like, and then what happened? So again, here preparation, you don't have to do anything. You can organize people in individual or pair or a work group. And the procedure is, now here, you're not telling them something which never happened or which they have to think out of the box, right? We are just telling the student to think of any well-known story, for example, Cinderella or Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, etc., which many of us would have heard or done when we were children, and have them write a composition about what happens after the story actually ended. Right? So if Cinderella married the king or the prince and eventually may have become king. So if Cinderella married the king and that's where the story closes. So we have to ask what happened next. Right, what happened next. Okay, similarly for others, Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, so her grandma was killed by the wolf. Wolf took the position of her grandma. She was trying to fool Little Red Riding Hood and kill her and all, but finally, anyway, the bad wolf was killed. What happened after that? So when you put it in that way, people again have to use their creative juices, come up with something, and it will be more engaging and interesting to them. We do have something in the chat. What is it? Oh, thanks. The beginning of a story. So another good way to engage people, to make people more involved. Again, here you don't have to do any preparation. And this is, however, an individual work would be better here. Give the students the beginning of a story, right? So, an example is given as last week I went to visit Frankenstein. Or you can say last week I went to see the historical museum. Okay, and then ask them, okay, what happened next? What happened next? You are giving the beginning of a story and asking them to proceed with the rest of the story. And obviously, you'll find that each person will come out with a different answer. Right? And some of them would be really humorous. Some of them will be really way out of the box. Some of them will write things that you can't even imagine. Right? So it would be very interesting, not only for the students, but also for the teachers and educators. You will also love to do it, right? Because first thing is that you don't have to speak for 1 hour or 2 hours. You're in the first 10 minutes, you're explaining, you give it to them, and you give them half an hour to write the story and come back to you. You get some free time and you get to then learn what each child thinks. So it's interesting for both the educators as well as the students. And this is something you can try. And obviously, so all these games may be to a different audience. For example, you cannot give the beginning of a story to a class 1 or class 2 student. Maybe at least they should be class 3, 4, 5 and above. Excuse me. Okay, and there's another one, newspaper headlines. And this is one where you would definitely need to prepare something beforehand. What you need to prepare is take newspapers, very easily available newspapers, okay, and cut out some headlines from them. And make some photocopies. And this can be a group work. And what you have to say is, for each group, you hand out a photocopy with all the headlines. What the students need to do is they must mix up the words in the headlines to make up funny new headlines, right? It doesn't matter whether it is grammatically correct, incorrect, sentence formation is right or wrong, because we're just asking them to mix and match things and put it in a different way, come out with some kind of story or headlines from them. Okay. And after the students have written down the new headlines, and that's just the headlines, right? So that is part 1 of the exercise. Part 2 is you need to go, they need to go and prepare a news article based on the headlines. Again, you're asking the students to use all their imagination skills. So these are few examples that I wanted to mention here. Okay, so finally we have reached the conclusion. A few things that I would like you to remember, because these are the basic things that if you remember, rest all just are tools, they are techniques or their methods to do. First thing is, teachers should always see their lessons as good stories to tell. So whatever it is that you're trying to teach or convey or give a speech about, if you can make it or think of it as good stories to tell, then the audience will be more receptive, they'll understand it better, they'll be able to retain it better, they'll find it more interesting, engaging. And finally, when teachers spark students' imagination, what you will see is that kids will learn well. Not only will they learn well, they'll also earn higher test scores. Right? Not just by mugging and vomiting things, but more about learning, understanding, imagining, becoming more confident in how they are responding to different situations. Then not only will they be better, more creative and more innovative persons, they will also score better on the test scores. So any questions here? Anyway, I would like you all to have happy teaching careers, or even if you're not teaching, happy educating people on what you know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anil sir. We are fortunate enough to learn a lot from your education session. I would now request everyone to join the interactive session. Please shoot your questions and Anil sir will be happy to answer them.
Yes, come on.
Sir, there's a question. Can you please tell us how important is it
You can
to
introduce
understand
yourself.
the emotion?
You
Sir, I'm Veena here. I have a question.
Yes, Veena ma'am.
Can you please tell us how important is it to understand the emotional needs of a child?
Very important, right? Because like I said, most of our responses or reactions come from within our mind, right? If you give the same stimuli to different people, I mean the same situation to different people, why are different people responding in a different manner? It's because of what is going on in their minds, right? So the emotional nature of a person, emotional IQ of a person, if it is understood by the teachers, the better they would be able to convey whatever they want to communicate to the other person. So as much as possible, we should understand. And of course, that also means that all the teachers and educators should at least be fairly conversant with psychology of kids, our psychology of people as well, human behavior. So those are things that we should understand. So the things that if we have not taken a class, it would be nice to take a class on that.
Thank you,
so
sir.
in a nutshell, what it means is very, very important.
Yes, sir.
So myself, Soni Mohan, I would like to ask a question, sir. So determination in learning, it's a very important thing that a teacher is facing nowadays. How can we help determined child in learning?
How to make the child be more determined in learning? Again, the answer is simple: engage their attention. Because where do you lack determination? You lack determination to do things that is not interesting to you, right? That doesn't appeal to you. Now, if you make it appealing and interesting, the determination will come automatically to the people. So make it more engaging, more interesting, make it more creative, more imaginative, and the children will become more and more determined.
So such a child like autistic child, how can we help them?
What child? Autistic? Are you mentioning about autistic children?
Yes, sir. Determined children. How can we help them to come forward?
No, I didn't understand that question. Are you talking about autistic child who has special needs, or are you talking about a okay. If you're talking about yes. If you have a special needs children, if they are special needs, obviously they require special needs, and you cannot teach them without understanding their special needs.
That's it.
So basically, first there are I don't have much knowledge about special needs teacher. My sister is a special needs teacher. If she was here, probably she could have answered that better. But in my limited way, what I would like to say is that you cannot do the things that we have mentioned here in a generic way for a specific needs child, right? For a specific needs child, first and foremost is that you should not start teaching at once, in my opinion, right? You should first look at them and see what they are doing, right? How are they exploring the world? How do they understand the world, right? Because a special needs children also has some special intelligence, which the normal children do not have. Once you're able to identify what is the special intelligence or the smartness that they have, then you can formulate a lesson or a teaching course for them. All right, how would you teach them? And since they are special children, they'll need individual attention. You cannot do it in a classroom environment. You cannot do it at least in a group of people, right? Most of them will require that individual attention, or even if you're doing in a group of special needs, you have to go to each individual special need child and tell them in the specific method or manner that they can understand. Okay, so there's no generic solution. Yeah, it has to be specific to the individual, and for that you need to understand the individual.
Good evening, sir. My name is Savya.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Savya.
What academic standards do we use and what do we need to know about them?
Okay, yeah, again, that question probably would be answered by a person who's in that environment, right? Unfortunately, I do not have that kind of expertise.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, another
maybe
question.
Someone in this group may have that, right? It's not necessary. As we say, the wisdom is in the crowds. So when you have a crowd of people, obviously the whole crowd has more intelligence than any single individual person. So if anybody has an answer to this question from Savya madam, I would request you to please answer.
Sir, another question.
Go ahead, Savya.
Our creativity and innovative thinking used on a daily basis in classroom.
How much is currently used? Well, if I see my kids who they're schooling, I do not think they had too much of an imaginative and creative teaching. Maybe some teachers did that, but not the majority of them. So unfortunately, our primary and secondary school children in most of the schools do not get the advantages of being taught in a imaginative way. Our preschool children do get that because a lot of preschool teachers use these games, stories, rhythms, rhymes. So they do that. And if you see, that's why our preschoolers, they learn so fast. They understand things so fast. And whatever you learned in preschool, you still remember it even when you're old. And I have not forgotten many of the nursery rhymes that I was taught. But I've forgotten nearly everything that I was taught in my engineering or in my schooling days, right? Except for a few basic arithmetic and maybe English language or Hindi language, because a language we always use. Most of the other things, I do not know ABCD of calculus today, or trigonometry for that reason, or vectors, or any kind of topics that I was taught, though I would have got good marks. Right? No point in getting 90s when you don't remember it after a few years. Or months.
Yeah, okay, sir. Thank you. Okay, sir, can I ask another question?
Go ahead, sir.
Our assessment designed to promote learning rather than a simple measurement.
The assessments.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So see, unfortunately, we do need assessments, right? And why we have assessments is because when you want to measure one thing against another, you need to have a unit of measurement. Now, suppose you want to mention how fast a car goes, or an aeroplane goes, a train goes, or a horse goes, or how fast you walk. If you did not have the unit of measurement as kilometers, and if people were using different units of measurements, it becomes difficult to do a relative judgment. So to understand, to come to a conclusion of a relative judgment, you have to have these assessments which are common to everyone, so that we can know that in this particular assessment, this particular student is little bit better than that other person student, or in this particular assessment, this student has understood many things. This student is weak and may need to be reinforced on the concepts. So for those things, assessments are definitely needed, and they have to be generic and applied to most everyone who wants to be known that they have passed it or they know they have some expertise in it.
Yes, sir.
But more than the assessment, it is more about what you do with it, right? Because if, say, like, okay, IIT degree is an assessment. It tells you that somebody who has who has done IIT is supposed to be among the top students of India and a very good engineer. Does it mean that all IIT students are good engineers? Or all IIT students will become head of corporations or become the global head of some products? Not, right? No. Yeah. So even though it's not just about the assessments are like something which is really required. Like, for example, to get into a job, you need to be a graduate or a postgraduate. But what you do in the job will next determine how good you are and how quickly you progress. So you should think of assessments as like an entry criteria and not anything more than that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. One question, sir.
Sure, go ahead, Savya ma'am.
How is education changing? Education is changing now. How it is happening?
Okay. Education is changing slowly, but is going to change much quicker in the future. Okay, if you want my opinion or my thought process about it, education is also going to go in something called the metaverse. I'm not sure how many of you have heard the term metaverse. I think most of you do use Facebook, right? Do you know what's the name of Facebook now? They have just recently changed their name.
Yeah.
Meta.
Meta. They're calling themselves Meta. And Meta is the short form for metaverse. Okay. So what Facebook is indicating, see, Facebook today is an organization which brings group of people together with similar interest or friends, right? So they are more like a social club. We should think of them as a club where people meet and greet and tell about what they have done and want to project all the good things that happen in their life. That is what it is, right? So basically it's a community which is coming together globally via the internet. Now, Meta is the next version where you are actually being virtually in a AR/VR mode inside a community, right? So suppose now we are giving this class, we are using Zoom. So using Zoom, though we are all in different places, different locations, different cities, and different countries also for that matter, we are still able to talk to one another and communicate visually as well as audio, right? So with sight and sound, but we cannot. We are still know that there are different people and they are everywhere. And say many of the people do not even have the video, so I can't even see them, right? And even if I can see them, many of them will be doing different activities. They'll be in different environment. The engagement with them will be like 30%, 40%, and some of you may be up to 80%, right? But we are not 100% together. Okay. When you are in the metaverse, what happens is the metaverse will place you choose an avatar and you will be placed in a room, and because you will be having some glasses or something, you will visualize, imagine that you are like as if you are like in a dream, right? Dream sometimes appears real to us. So the metaverse is something which will appear real to us. We'll all be together in a room. It will be like a classroom or whatever we decide, or if it's external, it may be a garden or whatever. And we'll have the board or we'll have the projectors, we'll have coffee in our hands. All those things will be there, and it is as if we are present there, right? So it's a virtual reality. Now, many of you would have played video games or gone to some fairs where they have these video games where you kind of imagine you are in that car racing or in that skiing or some adventure. Or if you have gone to these theme parks, right, Disney or even in here, maybe in Queensland elsewhere, where you have these 4D situations, right? So if you are watching that IMAX movie or in that seat which is shaking when the things are going up and down, water comes to you from between the pipes, and maybe there's even have air coming to your feet, as if like when rats are going over you. So those kind of simulations they are doing, and you do get involved in them, but you still know that you're not in full reality. But when you're in the metaverse, it will be as if you are really there. If some of you have seen Matrix movie, right? So that's the kind of virtual simulation that you'll be in. If you have seen Matrix, or if you have seen Ready Player One, right? So those kind of worlds. So that is where even our education will go. It may take 10 years, it may take 15 years, but finally things will be done in a virtual classroom, and we'll feel as if we are there in that virtual classroom. So we got to learn those skills, how to use those tools, because they are coming fast. That's the future in my opinion. And because I'm more technology oriented, I see that coming quite quickly.
Yes, sir. Okay. We tend to focus on a strength or weakness of a child. Okay.
Okay, so let me answer that question in a different way. I think all of us know Sachin Tendulkar. Okay,
Yeah.
in those of you who do not know, he is known as the god of cricket, because I mean, at least when we were young, everyone used to idolize him, and he was one of the best players ever in the world, and certainly one of the best players from India. So Sachin Tendulkar, do you know what his level of what he has learned?
I think ninth or 10th.
Yes, that is right. He failed his 10th class.
9%.
Right? He failed his 10th class,
class.
or he didn't even give the exam, board exam. Okay. So what did he do? Did he focus on his weaknesses and try to become a graduate, postgraduate?
No.
Okay.
No.
He was a sportsman, and he became very good at cricket. Now, do you know he was good at football also? He could play tennis and all.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Right? So did he try and become a tennis player, national level tennis player, or national level football player? No. Right?
No.
No.
Now, if you think this is what we do, right? Okay, person, we see, okay, person is like some child is getting 100 every time in maths, but in physics, that person gets 50 and 60. What do we tell that student? You are very good in maths, now concentrate on physics. Get your average up. Right? That is what we tell. But what did Sachin Tendulkar do? He didn't get his tennis up to the national standard, or football, or his education, or anything else for that matter. He concentrated on cricket. And that is why he became great at cricket. Now, if you want to become great at anything, you should know what you are very good at and where you have the advantage over others, and concentrate only on that. It doesn't matter. Finally, in your life, you succeed in what your strengths are, not your weaknesses. Otherwise, you become average. And most of us are taught to become average. We are told to become average. We are told to become decent at everything. No, you should be great at one thing. Other things doesn't matter even if you fail. Right? So, say if you wanted Albert Einstein to be good at history, my goodness, we would have not got this progress, right? He wouldn't have become one of the greatest scientists in the world. Because he just concentrated on those things. He didn't even concentrate on other parts of physics, only on the quantum mechanics and on the theory of light and all those things, right? Is equal to mc square. He is such an elegant equation, just 4 words are there in it, and it means so much, and it has so much applications. Anything that we have today is coming from those equations. And he did it by concentrating on that, not on anything else. So my thinking, and it's really true if you see different people also, people who have played and concentrated on their strengths and made those strengths so good that they're so much ahead of all the others in that strength, make it good in life. The other people who try to do everything, they become jack of all trades, master of none.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Sir, what I can do to meaningfully support literacy in my home? What can I do for my
support literacy in your home? I think India is fairly literate now, right? Most of the people, at least the people who are say less than 60 years, do know how to read and write. If that is what you mean by literacy. If you mean more than that, then of course you keep on teaching, educating, helping out people understand the concepts, and one more thing, never doing the work that they are supposed to do. Right? I mean, it's a very famous statement. Don't teach a don't give a fish to a person. Teach the person how to fish. Right? And it's such a good statement as well, because if you're just bringing home fish and giving it to people, they have become accustomed to getting it from you. If you do not give them their regular fish, they will get angry at you, because now you are responsible for giving them the fish, right? So you will have no other work to do other than fishing and giving it to all the people whom you want to give fish or who are dependents on you. But if you make them fish, you are free to do whatever you want to do, and they also now can do on their own, and they are not dependent, right? So the greatest thing or gift that we can give anyone is to make them independent, not reliant on anyone. Make them independent, make them to do the things themselves. Obviously, that doesn't mean that you make them go hungry, but let them struggle a bit before giving them that fish. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Sir, I'm Revati. Yeah, I have a doubt, sir.
Yes, Revati, ma'am.
In this recent years, we have moved from face-to-face, the structured classroom or the classes outside the classroom, all to the online classes. So will it be, though we are developing technically, it will be effective and sustainable among the children group?
It depends, right? For the preschool, definitely not. They will require in-person classes, right? Because for one thing, you cannot maintain their attention. How much ever you use these tools, if those people are not in front of their laptop, they will not be engaged, right? And their attention span, like today's children attention span is few minutes. You cannot keep them engaged or sit in a place for more than 10 minutes. If you can do that, you're a super parent or a super teacher. They're very difficult to make them sit in a particular place for more than 5-10 minutes. So for those, you will definitely require in person. But for anything, say beyond a primary class, right? We don't need a physical classroom. A physical classroom is actually restricting us, restraining us, confining us to doing certain things. Now today, suppose if I want to see what a Harvard Business School, I mean, if I'm a college student, I want to know what a Harvard Business School is teaching, I can get that free. I can get it in YouTube. There is Khan Academy. There are a lot of things. There are all of these massive open source courses, right? They're available free of cost. If you want a certification, you got to pay, but if you want just the knowledge, you can get it. So would you rather be taught, any business thing by a professor of Harvard or by some local teacher in your own city?
Professor.
Absolutely. So so today we have, because of these tools of technology, we can learn from the best, very, very best teachers across the world, and literally free of cost, or with very less cost. Okay, so in that environment, actually, in my opinion, now this is just my opinion, I'm thinking most of these graduate degree courses and postgraduate will go away in future. Why? Because most of us will not be interested in doing 3-4 years courses when all you need for a particular job is 3 months training on that job. Right? If you have done 4-year courses or 3-year courses, do you think you're using all that knowledge in the job that you're working? Then it's waste, right? It's completely waste. Now, in the earlier situation, when we did not have these tools, we had no choice. That was required. But in the future environment or future that we are going in, we do not require. If you want to know how to, how to be a nurse, at least you need more. Or think about how to do some office admin, accounting work. Why do you need to learn all the other subjects and spend 3 years learning BA accountancy, MA accountancy, or a CA or whatever, when you can learn those concepts in 3 months? Or someone who's brilliant and wants to work 18 hours a day, and he or she can do it in 1.5 months, and there'll be a standard test. If you pass this test, you are a CA. That's it. So instead of waiting 4 or 5 years for it, you get it in few months. And since you have passed that standard degree, you will be accepted in the job. You know Google company, right? So Google has created their own courses for, of course, in the field of IT, they have these courses of 3 to 6 months. And what they are saying is, people, and those courses are freely or available at very low cost. Low cost, of course, in terms of dollars, maybe like $30, $50 or something they're having on one course, which is nothing for the advanced economies. Even for Indians now, $50, $100 is not much, right? We spend much more in schools and classes and colleges. So you do this 3 to 6 months course and you pass an exam, you're eligible for a job in Google. And a lot of other companies are also saying they will accept that. So what they're saying is that for computer engineering, I do not need a person who has done 4 years engineering, maybe 2 years MSc or MTech or whatever. Instead of those 4 to 6 years, you do these 3 to 6 months and we are ready, because this is what we need. All the IT companies have their own learning organizations. Even if TCS, Infosys, Wipro, they are hiring people, they make them undergo 3 to 6 months training before they put them on a project. Why? Because our current education is like having syllabus of 20 years before, and it's not relevant for the job they are going to do. So people who are graduates, postgraduates come into these big organizations and they have to be taught again for 3 months before they can be put on projects. Right? Instead of them, what will happen in future? They will say, TCS, Infosys, they'll say, okay, this is our learning syllabus. It is open to anyone. Everyone learn it on their own pace. Write the exam. If you clear the exam, I'll hire you. That's going to happen in the future, right? Once they start thinking about it, because they can save a lot of cost. And they'll say, I don't care whether you have a degree or not, as long as you have done 12th, you know the basics. If you're able to learn this in 3 months and pass the exam, you're eligible for a job. And they'll have to pay less also. So it's like a win-win situation for everyone. So that's how we will go. And it would happen not today, not tomorrow, but in a 10 to 15 years time frame, that is what we would observe.
Thank you, sir.
It was a lengthy answer, but I wanted to explain my thought process.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Any more doubts? Thank you so much, sir. Any more doubts? Or shall we? Any more doubts? Angers, please.
Sir, I'm Veena. I have one more question. How can we manage anger and aggression as a teacher?
Anger and aggression.
I have to include one more also. One more small thing also, sir. That's stress also. Stress also, along with that.
Okay, so how you can handle stress, how you can handle anger.
And
both of them, aggression. Or what are all these? These are all emotions. So basic point what you're asking is, how do you handle your emotions? And for that also, our great ancestors have a wonderful answer. We have yoga. And yoga is not just physical yoga, yoga is also mental yoga. And we have a great tradition of all these meditations and gurus and all. Of course, 80% of them or maybe 90% are fraud today, but there are at least those 10% who are genuine, right? And the genuine gurus, they give us all these meditation. What you need to do is understand your emotions. All of us feel things in a different way. We have to understand what we feel. We have to try and introspect why we feel that. And we have to understand why we are reacting to those emotions in a particular way. Once we have understood that, then we can work on it and improve ourselves. And meditation is the right tool for that. Because meditation actually means self-introspection. It's not related to any religion as such. I mean, you can package it in a different way, but generally I would say it is a scientific process of inquiry within yourself to understand yourself better, and then respond in a proper way to any kind of external situations. So that's how you have to manage your emotions. It is very easy to say, very difficult to do. That is always true.
But not impossible.
But then it's definitely not impossible. You may know some of your friends who have been able to overcome all that and make changes in their lifestyle or in the way they approach things. First thing is like, okay, if you want to use a tool to control your anger, the best thing is whenever you feel angry, count down from 10 to 1. Because what happens when you do that is you change the focus from your anger emotion to try to count down backwards, and counting backwards is a little bit more difficult. Or if you're good at counting backwards, count the alphabets backward, right? Start from Z, Y, X, like that. That's even more difficult. When you do that, your mind now is not thinking about the anger, it's thinking about how to count backward alphabets. And when you do that for 5, 6 alphabets, by that time your immediate anger would have come down. Okay, and for stress, of course, what you have to do is you have to find what are your stressors. Everyone has different kind of stress, right? Some people may be stressful just to go home and cook. Cooking is stressful. For others, cooking is like meditation. It helps them relieve stress. So you got to find what stresses you out and avoid doing things that stress you out. As simple as that. So again, you first have to understand what is stressing you out. Avoid it as much as possible. If you can't avoid it, then you have to dig deeper, because then you have to find why it stresses you out, because then you got to find the root cause and try to eliminate the root cause, right? Or say, so you don't like to cook, it stresses you out. Hire a cook if you can afford it, right? Or if you want like eating outside, well, there is Swiggy and Zomato, and a lot of times we get from them. Of course, these are expensive things, so it also depends on your financial condition. Or if you are old enough, you have children, make them cook. Make them cook means you can't order them to cook. You got to make cooking interesting for them. If you want to reduce your cooking, and ensure that they also cook, you should make cooking interesting for them, right? So there are various different methods you can use.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I would just like some feedback, and I'm using another Mentimeter screen for that. So I hope you can click on this link, go here, and just give one word or one sentence. How did you think this session went? So if you can please do that, it would be very nice. First of all, if you're clicking the link, are you able to reach that screen? If not, if you're reaching a screen where you have to input code 8593670 is the code.
Yes, sir. Sure. What, Veena?
Sure, sir.
So are you going there?
No, sir. Actually, I'm attending the Zoom meeting from my phone. So will I be able to do it?
You will be able to do it. All you need to do, if you have a laptop or something else, or open your Chrome, go to www.menti.com. What was it? Menti.com. www.menti.com. You can give in the code.
Why did you internet?
Yes. Menti.com. Yes, I will do that.
Let me just share my screen, how it is going, right? Somebody has put in this. I do not know what is this.
It's an A+, sir.
But it's okay, it's a A+. Thank you. Thank you for that. It looks nice. We have got
Thank you, Anil, sir.
of now.
For those superb answers and explanation. You will get many, sir.
Yes, great session, wonderful. Yes, really applicable for the teachers to work in the classroom.
Right.
Yes,
thank you so
excellent.
Much. That's nice.
It was really interesting, sir.
Yeah, and if you're not using this Mentimeter, right? This Mentimeter is really good tool to get some responses. Because if you see, if there are a lot of, like you say, 20-25 people at least put in the words, you will see it comes out in a very nice way. So this is a nice tool. If you have never used it before, it's a free tool. You can use it. At least the basic things are free. you can create even multiple choice questions, text answers, and different things here. And maybe this is a tool that you can use in future as well.
Sure, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Neema ma'am.
Okay.
I would request Shalna ma'am to propose the vote of thanks.
A very good afternoon to all. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this event to all dignitaries assembled here. First, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to today's guest of honor, the speaker, DTM Anil Nair sir. Thank you, sir. Then I would like to thank our master trainer and founder of NCDC, Baba sir. Then our beloved NCDC faculties, circle coordinator, Shakila ma'am, Jyoti ma'am, Sabita ma'am. And I also extend a special thanks to the anchors, Veena ma'am and Soni ma'am. Ansu ma'am for the prayer, and our program coordinator, Prida ma'am. And last but not the least, our beloved audience and the 49th batch for making this function as a great success. Once again, I thank one and all present here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, dear.
Last but not the least, dream, dream, dream. Dreams are transformed into thoughts and thoughts into action.
I would request everyone to stand up to sing the national anthem.